Hello, can everyone on Zoom hear me? Please let us know. Do you want to? Yes? Okay, great. Hi, my name is Anjali Berger. I'm a K-12 teacher and teacher trainer, and I currently work at the Theodore Payne Foundation for California Native Plants as the education manager. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak tonight. What I'm going to talk about tonight is thinking about how to engage with the environment and have relationship with children and their environment. So this title is entitled Empowering Kids in the Garden and Beyond. And so we're going to talk about some ideas about children are wired to love the earth. Children are born to love the earth. They're wired to love the earth. And that means that you don't really have to do much to engage them. And we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when a child has barriers to relationship with the earth and how we can disrupt that. It doesn't really have to do with them. It has to do with structures that have been stacked upon them, such as fear or disruption from natural environment. Children are more capable than you realize. The more that you give them space to create, to do, to learn, to practice, the more that they're able to show up. And so going in with the approach that they're more capable than you can ever know. They have to be the ones to show that to you. So to believe in them, to believe in their capacity, allows them to show you who they are and to show themselves who they are. Children require space to practice and fail. I think that's something that's so exciting about the garden, is that, plants live, plants die. Everything is an experimentation. There's so much hope in the journey of gardening because there's so much opportunity for practice. And a lot of our children who don't get exposure to the environment have a lot of fear. There's a lot of policing, there's a lot of fear. So the more that you can give space for that failure to be accepted and to be encouraged. Orchid Black says you're not a gardener unless you've killed 100 plants. So, when we teach pruning, we give a lot of space with already cut branches to practice the pruning. And you'll notice that kids will have a lot of barrier. Do I cut here? Is this the right place? And you just want to give them space. Or they're really excited and gung-ho and they just want to cut. And so you really back a little and say, let's practice. How did that cut go? Okay, the next one. Children need to problem solve. Gardening is such an amazing space to figure out problem solving. There's so many steps and opportunities. So you want to give them opportunity to problem solve. We're going to look at a video that talks about that. Children need a combination of repetition and novelty. And this is an approach that all teachers and all educators I encourage to think about, where you don't want to clutter how you teach. You want to keep the directives pretty simple, and the content is what changes. So something like when you're journaling, the journaling practices don't change, but what you journal changes. When you're exploring or we're asking questions when we're reading, I don't stray from the kinds of questions I ask. I ask pretty simple, open-ended questions, and that's sort of the repetition of the practice. But what changes is what we read. So we can read a different text every day. We can plant different plants. We can walk around the garden, walk around our space in different ways. The novelty comes from the experience, and the repetition comes from the similarity of the practice, because that's what's going to build their muscles. Children are empathetic and inquisitive. They care deeply, They care in a way that they don't even realize how caring they are, and they're inquisitive, meaning that they need a lot of space to ask questions. And if you're in a relationship with children that aren't naturally asking questions, you'll find that the more you give space for those questions, the more you prompt them, the more they'll sort of start to remember how to do it. But I don't think that that's usually a problem, especially when they're younger. Children develop their brains through physical learning. This is really important. This is why gardening is so powerful, because any kind of experience that children are having with their physicality, not only are you reaching the whole child, you're reaching all senses and everything, but children are learning to cultivate a sense of trust with their own bodies. And so it's really important that they have that shovel, they have that capacity to practice, to walk, to touch, to feel. The more that they're testing their own boundaries, the more that they cultivate trust, and the more that you're supporting the neural development. Um, so, um, sorry, I'm just going to move my little screen here. Oh, it's okay. So you want to give directives that allow children to be the ones to do. I think it's really tempting to do it for them, but one of the things I used to say as a teacher working in New York City is keep your hands in your pockets. I see a lot of teachers just wanting to reach out and grab, and there was this one teacher, he was just always doing it all for the kids. And you want to keep your hands in your pockets, and you want to give them the space. And keeping your hands in your pockets gives them the space to practice and fail and problem solve. Or one of the beauties of being outdoors is that learning outdoors is a very ancient, traditional way of being a human, and it's an intergenerational way of learning. And the curriculum that I'm currently writing is 0 to elder, because that's a traditional way of learning. And so you can work together, but you really want to make sure that the working together is truly side by side, so that you're not hovering, you're not doing it for them, but you're with them. You're side by side with them. I'm not keeping my time, so would you just let me know, Carol, how I'm doing? Thanks. Okay. So this is a video of some 7th graders that I work with near Theodore Payne Foundation. And I love this video because it kind of demonstrates a lot of the things that were just on the last slide. This teacher is really phenomenal. He's cultivated an incredible amount of trust in his kids, and the way he's done that is he's kept things loose. They're structured and they're held, but there's a lot of loose. And so we literally had planted. You're going to see the planting video on another day, and we had mulched. Or no, I think this day we had finished the mulching or done the mulching, and then we said build the path. Just build the path, and this is what they did. So you can see that some kids are kind of fixing up the other plants that have been planted. Other kids are getting the mulch in the buckets. Earlier, while some kids were mulching, the other kids were looking for large sticks because they knew the path was going to be in the middle. And then they had all these old bricks, and they took these brick pieces, and some of the brick pieces they actually had to hammer to make into smaller bits. But this was all done independently. Sorry. Hmm. Is that the one? Okay. Okay. So when we're working outside with children, when we're doing anything really, one of the reasons that gardening is or being outside is such an amazing way of learning is because it hits all these different learning modalities, and these are different ways. One that's missing on this is The spiritual component, the capacity for like a poetic and spiritual intelligence, which has been documented as a really important way of thinking and learning. And that's kind of missing here. We have logical, physical, verbal, oral, visual, solitary, and social. And as much as possible, you want to try and texture and diversify what you do through all these different lenses. We're having some alone time, that's incredibly important. It's also important to have social time, paired time, group time. The logical deals with the problem solving or the learning, the content, why these things are relevant, why they matter. Visual is learning by seeing or with the eyes, oral by hearing, verbal by speaking, and physical by doing. And when you're giving kids experiences outside, you're hitting all of these things. The solitary and the social has to be a little more intentional, usually when you're with groups of kids, but as much as possible, thinking about how do we engage these aspects of learning. And here's an example, here's the video of the kids planting, and I just want you to take a moment and notice what is getting stimulated, how they're engaged with each other, all the things that have to happen when you're planting. And I know that the theme is how to get kids excited, and I really think the more that you just give space and give directive, kids ought to really want to do this. We're going to talk after this if kids are afraid of insects or afraid of bugs, or afraid of soil, or afraid of getting dirty. There are ways to disrupt that, but children don't get to do this. You had such a beautiful presentation. I loved seeing your plants grow. I loved how you connected how you were growing with the plants, and those plants did so well. You have green thumbs and toes. Like, it was amazing. So the more that you give kids the opportunity, the more that their natural intelligence gets to express itself. So we have so much collaboration, we have problem solving, we have assessment. We actually had to go back right after we planted with heavy rains, which was really exciting, but it also required a little bit of adjustment for some of the plants that were planted. And these um, these kids were able to just jump right in, and they hadn't planted plants before. At least not with their class. They may have done with their family in different respects and the different ranges of experiences, but this was the first time they had planted with their class in school. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to go to the next slide. Okay, so we're gonna watch now. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit to think about the solitary piece. And the way that I preface this piece, this exercise, and I always do this with kids, and I do this on repeat with children, is you have to find a spot, and you can be anywhere. So preferable outside, we're talking about outside, but this is something that children actually need in general. You go everywhere, and I say, you have to be alone for this time. And you're gonna feel uncomfortable. You might feel bored, you might feel antsy, you might feel uncomfortable. So what I want you to do is I just want you to sit with that and work through it, wriggle through it, draw, write, do whatever you need to do until you get through that discomfort. And one kid asked me, can I play with sticks? And I said, sure, you can play with sticks, that's fine. He sat by himself. And the reason is because the point of this is to experience what I call loud silence. It's sort of that, thick, lush silence that happens when you drop in and the sounds of the environment amplify, and you feel held in that silence. And there's something really joyful and important when you do that silence in community, actually, and you have other people around you who are practicing that kind of silence. So we're going to hear some loud silence, and it's always for anyone who's a teacher, an educator. It's so magical when your kids are all at once silent but focused. It's like you can feel it. You can feel it. And we're going to watch this and I'll tell you what their reflection was afterwards. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if you can see the. I don't know if it's easy for you to see, but there were just children all over the space. And I didn't show you this video, but one child just popped up in the middle, was like, oh, ladybug! And then all the kids ran over, and it was just so beautiful. But afterwards, when we had our reflection circle, um, we said 20 minutes, we ended up going almost 40 minutes in this silence where they just were dropped in. They're hungry for it. Our kids are hungry for this. And, all of them just echoed how important it was, how beautiful it was, how much they wish it could continue. They wanted to do it again. Um, oh, sorry, just bear with me as I'm trying to get the slides to the next one and it's being a little stuck. Okay. So I wanted to show you this video. How much time do we have? 5 minutes? 8 minutes? Okay, I'm not going to show you this video, but I'm going to talk you through it, and I really recommend that you go and watch it online. It's this camera game from this incredible book called Sharing Nature, and um, I'm sorry, Alexis, I don't think I'm doing this right. Okay, here we go. This is the book. It's called Sharing Nature by Joseph Cornell. I highly recommend it. It's an incredible book. I've been using a lot of the activities from it, and this is an activity called the camera game. And this is such an easy game to do quickly and intuitively across generations, where one person is the camera, the other person is the photographer. And you do this in silence. And the reason for this is it really allows you to drop in and tune in your observation skills. It hits all these different aspects of learning and intelligence. The person who's the photographer guides the camera around and chooses things that they want the camera to see. The camera has to keep their eyes closed while they do this. And when the photographer, and you're in silence, so you're communicating through physicality. When the photographer finds the thing they want the camera to see, they can bend down, they can position them, and then they tap twice. The camera opens their eyes, and then after 3 seconds, closes. The photographer has to tap again. The camera closes their eyes, and they keep going. And You can do this with grandparents and young children. You can do this with peers. You can do this with siblings. You'll see in this video up on top some siblings doing it. We had parents doing it with kids. It's such an incredible game. And in the book, they say that people have remembered what they see for 5 years because it's so potent. Because if you think about how much we're intaking, we're so stimulated. And this game allows you to sort of be like your own viewfinder and focus on something and then retain that. It's really interesting to think too about what children or whoever the camera or the photographer is chooses to see, and then the way that the camera receives it. Oh, there was something else I wanted to say about how important this is, but I don't remember what it is. Let's watch the video. So cute. And then if you look at the top, that's where they are. They're sisters. Yeah, it's an incredible game. You can play it anywhere. You can play it at the mall if you want to. You can play it at your house. It tunes and it helps enhance our capacity for observing, for dropping in, for letting. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. We talk a lot about plant invisibility at Theodore Payne Foundation, and this helps dissolve when things around you just feel like a wallpaper, you know? And I'm sorry, do you prefer for me not to talk without the mic? Is that easier? Is that less distracting? Because I can project. Yeah, can you hear me? Is this good? No? Better? Okay, I'll try. Um, when you are playing this game camera, it's allowing you to not just see everything as sort of wallpaper or as one big thing, but it's allowing you to really zoom in and focus and then capture that focus. And it's a game that you can play anywhere you are, all the time, all ages. For teachers out there who want to continue to do this work in a more like rigorous way, you could have reflection, you could do drawings, you could do journaling or writing about the what you saw and what you experienced. Okay, and then another great way that's super easy and hones these powers of observation is a scavenger hunt. And this is an example of a simple scavenger hunt that I did for like second to third and fourth graders, thinking about their literacy levels and thinking about something that would they be able to do completely self-directed. And you can give this to a child and they will just go off. And you can make them bigger so they have to draw. This is something that you can This is something that is an example of the repetition with the novelty, right? You have a very clear directive of you're just going to look for these things, but the novelty is going to come for what is chosen to look for. And the way that I personally like to do scavenger hunts, if I have capacity to engage with kids, is to make our own. So it's really exciting to make a list together. Like right now in this room, if we all did a scavenger hunt and everyone made a thing, decided, you need to find 2 chairs stacked on top of each other. Again, this is something you can play in the mall. You can do it outside, you can do it inside, but what it does is it uses your senses that the environment we're naturally wired to be using, and it helps really sharpen them and practice them in a joyful way. So we could make a scavenger hunt together and we could think about what is it that we're gonna all be looking for, and then that's exciting to do it as a group. Kids have more ownership when they have choice to create. The other thing that you can do is thinking about change and transition. Jot down 5 things you think will stay the same tomorrow. Jot down things that you think will change tomorrow. And so this is a way to engage with space and think about, oh, what is going to kind of look the same tomorrow versus what is going to be transitory. It gets kids thinking about that, again, thinking more in levels and disrupting that wallpaper experience. The other thing you can do to continue to make it feel more advanced and rigorous is you can drop in vocabulary or content or things that are really specific. Like I want you to look for a habitat that is X, Y, and Z, or I want you to look for you can use, instead of a skinny leaf, you can use an adaptation that you want to teach the children. And then they're looking through the lenses. Basically, in a scavenger hunt, it seems so simple, but every single one of these boxes is a lens that a child is looking through and looking for. I think I'm gonna end there, although I do have another activity that I just wanted to share with you. I wanted to speak to really quickly. Poetry is a really important way to learn things. It creates a stickiness factor. When you learn through poetry, things have a way of sticking because they're part of a whole concept versus a fractured one, compartmentalized. And this is a beautiful poem that I won't read to you now, but it basically says that you can find a poem anywhere. You can find a poem in the eyes of skunks. You can find a poem in your socks. You can find a poem anywhere. And something that I have kids do both inside and outside is they have to go around and find something beautiful that you or someone else would consider beautiful. That's the language I use. And you have to write about it without naming it. So if I looked at the light, I'm not allowed to say the light, but I have to use another way to describe it. I can use it in the voice of the thing itself, or just describing it without the light. And then we all have to guess. And then we do the same thing for something that you or someone else would consider ugly. And in the yellow that you can't see here, it says ugly. And what it does is, after you do this activity, children start to develop a relationship where nothing is ugly. In the sense that you root it in a sense of compassion, going back to children are empathetic. It gives a framework, and so we can do this outside. It's really exciting to do it outside because children essentially have to hunt for something that someone else might think was ugly, and they end up finding old leaves or cobwebs or something broken or even a piece of trash or something, and it gives a sort of a humanized, compassionate framework to the thing. This is also something you can do repeated with novelty. You don't change it anywhere you are. Look for something you or someone else considers beautiful or you or someone else considers ugly, and you do it anywhere you are, and it all of a sudden makes the space alive on a deeper level. I love this thing because this is represents the circle of viewpoints, the circle of empathy. There's an infinite amount of ways to see something, many perspectives, right? The perspective of an ant is different than the perspective of a hawk, is different than the perspective of your own eye, is different than the perspective of a tree. And actually, if you go to the Harvard Graduate School of Education, they have a lot of resources under Project Zero, and that's the circle of viewpoints. And it's basically gives a practice for thinking in different perspectives. And again, this is repeated with novelty. Anywhere you are, let's all look at the perspective of the table. Let's all look at the perspective of the shovel. Let's all look at the perspective of the seed. Let's all look at the perspective of the tomato plant. And you're dropping kids into different vantage points. So thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. My name is Steve List. I am a high school agriculture teacher at Sylmar High School. And when I was, when I was asked to do this, I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to talk about. So I figured I'd take 20, 30 pictures of the garden and then give you guys a tour of my classroom. And this is pretty much the outside. I don't like to teach indoors at all, really. I don't like to keep the kids confined. I like them outdoors, so I call this my outdoor classroom. I enjoyed your speech, your talk. It was great. You gave me some great ideas. There's nothing worse than a complacent teacher. And that's something that every year I try to reinvent myself and I try to build and do new things. And you'll see in our garden tour all the new things that we do. Every year, oh, is that what you want? Okay. Just tell me if I'm doing it wrong. Okay. Every year we try to add something, and it's like April would like this. I like a new ride at Disneyland. You know, we add something every single year, a new area. This year we added a native garden. You'd be very proud of me. We also put a rose garden in. So as I go through here, I'll kind of touch on things, and if there's any questions, please, will they chat me up or whatever, right? You guys will tell me if they're asking questions. I like questions. I work with the audience well. Anyhow, this is the front of my classroom. And we had this mural painted about 6, 7 years ago by a former student. And everything in this mural, it depicts the history of Latin agriculture. And we have the circle of life, the seed of life. Then we have the Mayan god of plants, the hummingbird, which the Incas say is the messenger from God. And then there's some constellations that have to do with agriculture too. I can't remember exactly what. And we've dedicated that to several fallen students and also community members. I don't know, maybe some of those names are familiar. Some people know Steve Godot passed away, pandemic. Tony Stewart, Rare Fruit Growers. Arc with Community Gardens, he just passed away last year. And then I have several students there too. But we turned it into like a memorial. But that's the first thing that my students see prior to coming in. And I try to make them enthusiastic and ready to not only learn, but behave themselves. Remember, I teach teenagers. That's not the easiest thing in the world. Okay, that's my partner in crime, Stefan. He's the heir apparent. Hopefully he'll take my job when I decide to quit. That again is our mural with some white sage. We all talked about, when was that, 2 months ago? They had that sage meeting. That was really cool, that movie. So what I decided to do is my next project is we're gonna grow a whole bunch of white sage and we're gonna donate it all over the place. Everything we grow in the garden, we donate. We donate to other schools, community gardens. We do a lot of low-income gardening. I teach a lot of classes on healthy eating. And my favorite thing is for little ones, I have this thing. I'm going to do this on Saturday, by the way, how to eat 5 good fruits and vegetables every day. I try to encourage the kids. That's our lavender garden. We have, there's 7 varieties of lavender, and then there's 3 types, which is the English, the French, and the Spanish. So all of this front portion of my classroom is a lot of natives, but there are also a lot of pollinators and medicinal herbs. Sweet peas. What do you think of my sweet peas? Yeah, they're almost done. They're almost done. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with them. And the kids make bouquets. They smell so good. But every year I do, those boxes are sweet peas. What I'll do is I'll cut those all the way down to the ground, maybe about 2 inches, and then I'll put some tomatoes or peppers in there. And the pea family gives off nitrogen, so it's an automatic fertilizer with those stems and roots. This is our lath house. And we grow 2 different kinds of flowers in our lath house. We grow the cyclamens in the winter, and now we're going into the Gerber daisies. And remember, these are all student projects. And one of the things I really emphasize is I want their attention. I want to get their attention having their own project, having something that they own and they value. And, we plant all over campus and we get no vandalism whatsoever because these kids, it's their projects. They take a lot of pride in it. I have a little water feature, makes them feel good before they get into my room. That's my, oh, how'd I do that? I don't want to see that yet. Okay, that's the pond. How come it's skipping? Okay, that's my classroom. So everybody knows me. I like rock and roll and crazy stuff. I'm a Grateful Dead fan. But this is 8:30 in the morning. They're having breakfast. It is total chaos, but it's organized chaos. So we get the kids going. They have their little breakfast, and I'll take roll call. We'll talk a little bit, and then we go outside immediately, and we get going on their projects. I call my area the Sylmar Agriculture Learning Center. And I do that because every little area has some type of learning aspect to it. And I take the kids and I give them groups. I'll take groups of 3, 4 people, and then I'll assign them a section, and they're to research it, study it, and then they have to report back to the class. They have to get up in front of the class and tell everybody what they've learned. I don't like testing. Very, very little testing in my classroom because I find that the kids cheat. And I don't believe testing does them any good. So if you show up to my class and you try, you will get an A. I don't like grades either. That's just talking pieces. People find that stuff, bring it around. Okay, I do a lot of work with the city of LA Sanitation. I do urban garden lecturing for them. And one day or last week, I decided to put all these trash cans up and teach the kids what trash to put in each one. And because that is one of the biggest problems with sanitation, they're not doing that. And we have a huge recycling program at our school that I like to teach them. Composting, everybody loves composting, right? I have a great 60-second YouTube compost, how to compost in 60 seconds. It's not a big deal. But we have there's 6 bins here. And we get a lot of the leftover food from a company called Mend, their food bank in Coima. And they bring us pallets and pallets of rotten vegetables and fruits. And we layer it up, and then the kids move it to the next pile. And then once we get the final compost, we mix it up, make our own potting soil. We have a functional nursery, as you'll see. Here's the kids at work. We've just gotten a load of apples, it looks like. It's our worm farm. Doesn't look like much, but it's a lot. So we do a extensive vermiculture. I don't know why that's so sensitive. Yeah. So we do the worms. I don't use a lot of the worm tea and the worm castings as much as I should. It's more of a demo. And, you know, we grow the worms and then people come and they need them to do their worm farming. So we give them away. But we do teach the kids all about permaculture. This is one of my greenhouses. These are peppers. So again, this was taken 2 weeks ago. These are all full and outside now. I just planted our pepper garden. I wait until May to plant the peppers because if you plant them too early, they just sit there. They don't really start growing until your night temperatures warm up in the soil. So we just got our peppers in. And again, we probably right now have about 150 flats of peppers that we'll be donating. These are plugs. I go down to San Diego about once a month, sometimes twice a month, and we pick up plugs. They donate them to us. And then we teach the kids the names of the plants, how to grow the plants, and then we grow them up and donate them. So you can see my thing too is hands-on, getting the kids interested and giving them something of value, something that they can hold, and then an end result. Whoops. We're doing a lot of cuttings and propagating this year. And we just got through with a big apple grafting thing with the CRFG. I believe we have 10 different varieties of apples there that we grafted. And we're also pomegranates. We did, I think there's at least 20 varieties of pomegranates at our school, mulberries, grapes, and figs. So we're doing a lot more propagating this year than we've ever had. It's just very sensitive. More propagation there. These are whoops, boy. These are raised beds. I just took out all of our winter vegetables except for the plot up that's full. We're getting that out now. This year was a great year for winter vegetables. Am I right? I mean, our spinach crop, we got 10 crops out of our spinach, but because the winter lasted so long, so we dug it all out and now that's all full of peppers. We just planted, I think about 30 varieties of peppers. My tomatoes. This was taken 2 weeks ago and I just did a video. I just posted a video on how to water your tomatoes yesterday. So if you want to see the difference, they literally have grown another foot. They're that tall already. And it's strange because we've had still very cool nights. We haven't had a lot of heat. And I'm so surprised at how fast our tomatoes, even last year, they didn't grow as well as this year. But One of my things that I encourage with tomatoes is just leave them alone, neglect them, don't water them, let them stress. This year, we have 25 varieties of tomatoes that we're growing. And again, what we do is we label them, we look at them, we research them. I talk about the hybrids, I talk about the heirlooms, indeterminate, determinate. I give the kids all this information, and then they go out and they do the research. Then they come back and talk to the rest of the kids and try to teach the class. Tomatoes again, and they really did in 2 weeks. Check out that video because it really shows you how fast they've been growing. That's our famous wisteria. And again, the wisteria this year was 1 month late. It usually blossoms the beginning of March. It flowered at the beginning of April. There it is. So that's what it looked like at a month ago. Isn't that beautiful? Not the guy, but the plant. That's my team. That's my students. Those are all my seniors. And I believe most of, and there's Araceli in there. She's the one to the right of me. That's my floral teacher. And then the rest of those students, they're all going to get scholarships too. This is one of the projects that I'm doing this year is we're growing blueberries. And I went up north and I picked up about 150 blueberry plants during, when did I go up to? February. So these were the kids planting the blueberries. And that's our final product. Those are all 5-gallon blueberry plants. Has anybody priced a 5-gallon blueberry plant? About $50. It's outrageous what they're charging. So these will all be donated to other schools, to community gardens. If you come visit me, I might give you one. And this is the bigger blueberries that we've been growing. They're full right now. So I will bring my grandchildren, as I got one right there. Did you eat any blueberries today? You didn't? You better get over there before I get there. Blueberries are not the easiest plant in the world to grow. You got to keep them in pots and you have to keep them acidic. If you lose that acidity, you're done. You're going to have to start all over. Dragon fruit. We grow a lot of dragon fruit. And I teach the kids just to break off a piece, stick it in the ground. That's all you need to do. These are jujubes. Everybody familiar with the jujube? One of the highest form of antioxidants. Here we go. I wonder why it keeps going. So I have a whole garden over here, an area that I have mulberries, jujubes, persimmons, and pomegranates, which are all the most highest antioxidants. And then the kids will learn about what is an antioxidant. What's the difference between antioxidants and vitamins? And then we study that quite a bit too. And you can see we have a lawn. Don't get mad at me. I love grass, I'm sorry. But we have a park area that we do a lot of functions on. As you can see, we try to label everything. And of course, I always want to make sure that we have the botanical name. When I teach plant identification, I really encourage the kids to learn the botanical names. And now I've been teaching also the beginning plant ID, I teach the families. I think if you learn the families of the plants first, you'll learn how to do plant ID a lot better. This is our portion of our nursery. Those are pomegranates. We have, I believe, there's 15 varieties of pomegranates we're growing this year. These are some of the trees I got from Dave Wilson this year. They always like to donate trees to us. The bare roots were so big, we had to put them in 24-inch boxes. We usually just put them in 15s, but they sent me some Pakistani mulberries and some, I think those are red Baron peaches. By the way, if you see anything in there and you know a school that would like some, I would love to donate to them. Avocados, those are last year's avocados. They got kind of flimsy with the cold this year, but they're going to kick into high gear. Those are all the Hass avocados. Our lawn area, that's just the whole garden. Kellogg's is a big sponsor for me. I really like Kellogg's products, not only because they're really good products, but they're local. We'd like to support our local things, and also they help the schools out all over. They've been good friends for a long time. Chickens. We got chickens. These are our new teenagers. Every year we get 10 new chickens, and we love fresh eggs, but we also use the chicken poop in our compost. And we try to keep everything sustainable, reuse everything. Everything that we grow, that we eat, is organic. I do use synthetic fertilizers on our landscape products, but I teach the kids the difference between organics and synthetics. We do have some FFA programs going on still. My chapter is really not that big, but LA has, I believe, 6 schools that are very, very involved in the FFA. These are 3 books that I really like to use as my reference books. Is anybody familiar with How to Prune Fruit Trees? It was written in 1945, and it's still the best book on pruning. The Sunset Western Garden book, that's my reference book. That's always the best book for me to use for teaching. And I enjoy this new one, or not so new, but DWP puts out this California Friendly book that you can get for free. It's really good. It talks about drought tolerant plants, native plants, California friendly, sprinklers. And I think it's just an excellent book for everybody in their garden. Number one problem in the garden is overwatering. And there's one other book I didn't put there. It's called Botany in a Day. If you're interested in a real good book on plant identification, and that talks about the families of plants and breaks it down. That's another really good book. Me, we do a lot of rain harvesting. I've been promoting rain barrels for the past 6 years for the city of LA. And this year we've had a lot of rain. And that's me leaving, saying goodbye. So I leave that, and now I can answer questions if we have any. No? Yes, come on. Well, it depends. Are you going to get mad at me for keeping them up, cooped up? They're cooped up, but they're in huge cages. We do let them out. We let them run around, but they're not free-range chickens. No. The problem. Yeah, but they also eat your plants too. So I've had other times, like one time we planted our winter vegetables, and they were little plants, and someone let them out, they were gone. So they go and they peck that. But we have very, very little problems with bugs in the garden. I have a really good biological balance. We don't spray anything. We encourage the beneficial insects. I do have some bugs. We wash them off, not a big deal. But I don't, I just encourage that, the beneficials and stuff. But as far as letting the chickens out, a little bit, but they're in big cages. So they're not tortured. And we baby them, and we hold them, and we love them. Is there anyone? Yes. Too much. No, I'm kidding. I have, okay, I have 5 periods. Am I doing something? Oh, yeah. Okay, the question is how much time do my students spend with me? Okay, I have 5 periods out of a 6-period day. My 6th period is conference, and they're about an hour. And I try to keep that whole hour outside as much as I can. I do a little bit of lectures. We do a little bit of videos. Of course, I've got to do roll call and the minor things, but sometimes I don't even bother with roll call. I'll just go ahead and get them right out there. The more they're outside, the more they're doing something, the less trouble they get into. Remember, they're teenagers. And but I want them hands-on. That's my best form of teaching. Okay, it does not meet the science requirement. It's purely an elective. I have 3 different courses. I have beginning horticulture, I have middle horticulture, and then I have greenhouse practices, which is my advanced course. So they could take it 3 years. So there's three different ones that they could take. So really what I get is 9th graders for beginning horticulture. 10th graders don't get an elective, and then 11th and 12th graders, so they get the second and the advanced one. Ah, that's the $10 million question right now. I taught them. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. The question is, am I teaching the LA sanitation composting classes? I will be back. It's in works right now. We ended at the end of March. There was some problems with the contract and the politics, but they're working very hard on getting me back. I should be back in July, but I will be back. Right now, they're just doing the composting lectures, but I personally will be back doing San Pedro, South LA, Griffith Park, and Lopez Canyon. Cross your fingers, I'll be back in July. Yes. I believe your question was, are my students interested in going beyond and keeping in the business? Very few. And I do get their attention. They do like it. They walk away with a lot of valuable information, but going into it over and beyond, I probably get a couple every year. Oh, me? Of course I encourage them. Yeah, absolutely. I want them to. I give them all the tools. There's so much scholarships and opportunities. And a lot of these kids, they come into my classes and they think I'm going to teach them how to mow lawns. They don't understand there's way more to this. And I have a lot of connections throughout the state of California where I can get them jobs, but they got to have a higher education to get a lot of these high paying jobs. But nowadays you got like robotics and all these new science things, and farming has gone so high tech. There's big bucks to be made. So I encourage them. I plant the seed, excuse the pun, but it's there for them, but not a lot do it. And it's a shame because there's such great opportunities. Yes. Yes. I encourage visitors. I like visitors. I love my kids to show off what you saw. You just saw a very, very small portion of the garden. I had 6 people from Department of Public Works come today and tour the garden. And it just makes me feel so good how beautiful it is, how nice it is. But it's my students. Yes, I'm there all the time. Yes, I live down the street. I'm there on weekends constantly, but it's the kids that do it. They're the ones that put it together. They're the ones that make it and drive it. Without them, I couldn't do it. Any more questions? Okay. Yeah, come visit me. I wish I could. I don't even have any free plants to give you today. I usually bring stuff, but thank you for having me.
Okay, well, I think that concludes everything for tonight. Thank you very much. And Steve List has been incredibly generous with bringing us free plants for our live meetings. So keep that in mind. If you try to make a live meeting in the future, you might end up going home with a free plant.